What is balanced water? Well, balanced water has natural ratios of minerals, microbes, magnetic and ionic charge, and a balanced pH. How does nature create balanced water? Well, nature rarely expresses in extremes, right? The hydrological cycle, if left to its own devices without human intervention, creates a really balanced water that helps maintain homeostasis in the watershed and in ecosystems and bodies that it nourishes. In the last segment, we discussed how nature filters water and makes its way through distillation-like processes of evaporation and the filter-like processes of seeping through geological layers. Now let's explore how this cycle fills the water with beneficial factors, even while it filters out contaminants. The first is minerals. So during the process of traversing layers of soil, water gets remineralized with ionic minerals, which our bodies, as electromagnetic beings, need to survive and thrive. The mineralogy of water is really important. You can think of it this way. If I have salt and I pour it in water, the salt will dissolve into the water. The sodium will dissociate from the chloride and it'll become a part of the water, permanently suspended into the water. Now, of course, that's different than if we put sand in the water. That'll just fall to the bottom and become sediment. It would be in the solution, but it won't become a dissolved solute. While dissolved minerals have another name, they're called electrolytes. 90% of Americans are deficient in trace minerals, and that can set our bodies up for failing health. In fact, trace minerals are often the missing link in healing. We can't rely on our food supply alone to furnish all the minerals that our bodies need, especially in this era of monocropping. But nature has designed ecosystems such that water also provides doses of minerals and electrolytes that are necessary for our survival. Of particular importance are fulvic and humic compounds. These trace minerals were found in much higher concentrations than the diets and water of our ancestors, but they're tragically really lacking in our modern lives. Next in balance is microbes. So as water passes through soil, it also picks up a diverse spectrum of microbiota, or tiny organisms, and microflora, or tiny plants within it. And these are necessary to our body's optimal functioning, as we've evolved to consume these organisms. They're like microalgae, and we know that algae is good for us. That's why we consume things like chlorella and spirulina, and they engender the natural neurochemistry of our brain and increase serotonin and other good neurotransmitters. To state it another way, if you're deprived of these natural microorganisms, you may not be producing enough serotonin. The next step in balance is electromagnetism. So nature also has ways of magnetizing water. Much of the bedrock whose caverns form aquifers are paramagnetic rock. So magnetic charge is one aspect of what constitutes living water, because living beings also have a magnetic field, whereas stagnant, unstructured, sterilized, or chemically treated water has no magnetic charge, is dead water. And you can try to filter and purify dead water, but it won't be biologically active without vibrational field resonance, such as electromagnetism. Now, all water molecules are naturally dipolar and paramagnetic, meaning that the molecules have a north and south pole and hold a magnetic charge. Usually the molecules of normal bulk water are all random and jumbled, but the magnetic field exposure aligns the poles and organizes them to face the same direction, again creating and strengthening the molecular structure that we talked about before. Once it's magnetized, water becomes medicinal and physically changes its properties in a whole slew of different ways. And the deprivation of Earth's magnetic energy in cities, coupled with electromagnetic pollution by power lines and household industrial devices, it isn't surprising that the bioelectric field surrounding and permeating your biowater and your body is not how nature intended it to be. And this is what one leading Japanese doctor, Kyoichi Nakagawa, is now calling magnetic deficiency syndrome, for which one remedy is magnetized water. And you can read more about it in the book The Body Electric by Dr. Robert Becker. Magnetized water is an effective treatment for EMF toxicity. It can help restore your body to its natural harmony with the Schumann resonance as nature intended. Water is a carrier of subtle vibrational medicine. The next step in balancing water is pH. Now let's talk about pH. We covered this a few modules ago, so we'll just quickly refresh your memory. pH is a measure of the relative amount of free hydrogen and hydroxyl ions in the water. Water that has more free hydrogen ions is acidic, whereas water that has more free hydroxyl ions is basic. So this can be a rather contentious topic in the field of water filtration, and I hope that our section on ionizing filters has helped shed some light on this for you. But just to reiterate, potable water in nature is almost always fairly neutral, right around pH of 7 or 7.5. Where it has a higher alkaline pH, it's due to higher mineral content that water picks up as it passes over stones and mineral formations. Natural water also often contains buffers like bicarbonates that make those minerals more available and more alkalizing in the body. Tap water, however, tends to be more acidic. So how do you balance water on your own? Well, of course, add minerals back to it. As we discussed, we want to make sure that our body has this antioxidant potential. And the easiest way to do that is to remineralize our water with a bit of good high-quality sea salt or electrolytes. One of my favorite minerals is minbiotics. So minbiotics is way more than your typical mineral supplement. It's a golden elixir. It's also a natural filter, a natural ionizer. It's antiviral, it's antibacterial. It's amazing. It's really unique. Best of all, the resulting water is nutrient dense with a full spectrum of 80 liquid trace elements. If you combine it with one of Natural Action's revitalizing water structures, you have a really nice, well-rounded strategy for living, vibrant, mountain spring quality water and thriving, invincible health. Now again, these minerals are present in much larger quantities in natural spring water, which picks up the fulvic and humic compounds along the way to the surface. They are not, however, to be found in tap water, so this is why supplementation is key. I also recommend adding ormus elements to your water, like it's found in mountain springs. The next step in balancing your water is microbes. Now, of course, consuming fresh harvested wild spring water will mean consuming a probiotic dose of microorganisms, but whenever that option is not available, supplementation is a good idea. One of my favorite microbiotic reinvigoration techniques for water is to use Kelby ceramics. Kelby ceramics are an ancient colony of microbes encapsulated in clay, and they're similar to the EM or effective microorganisms discovered by Dr. Teruo Higa. These microorganisms can survive severe conditions and temperatures, which means that they can be embedded in ceramics and survive the firing process. And the geometry of the clay provides a protective enclosure, so organisms survive in a dormant state, and when hydrated and given an adequate growing condition, they reawaken. Even though mature microbes are permanently embedded within the ceramic, they're able to populate their surrounding environment when you put the Kelby in water. Next is electromagnetism. So it's crucially important to protect your water from EMF frequencies. Water is a neutral receptor, and it will imprint upon whatever it's exposed to. So I recommend getting an EMF protector like a BioArc shield to protect your water bottle from radiant vibratory toxicity. The next step in balancing your water is magnetism, and there are a lot of ways you can magnetize your water. There's a simple magnetic charger plate that you can get on which to set your water bottle. Just make sure to alternate both sides of the magnet, as dipolar water is ideal. Another way to influence water's paramagnetism is again the use of tensor rings. One of the ways tensor rings augment water's energy is through the influence of paramagnetism. And according to Philip Callahan, an expert on paramagnetism, tensor rings have an astonishingly high paramagnetic value. They tend to organize the space or create coherence in the column around them. Next step in balance is pH. Now, rather than focusing on the alkaline acid spectrum, try focusing instead on hydrogen content. After all, pH stands for potential hydrogen. In Latin, hydrogen literally means water creator, hydro, water, and gen, creation. So the more hydrogen is in your water, the more hydrating it is. The easiest ways are to either buy prepackaged hydrogen water or to add molecular hydrogen tablets to your water, because hydrogen is absolutely key. In fact, you might even want to create a slightly acidic pH. It's not a necessary step, but if you want to add a little bit of extra hydration, having a slightly acidic pH helps it to absorb into the body better. You can add a little squeeze of lemon or a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and these beneficial acids can actually help neutralize acids in your body. Now that you understand the delicate balance of so many different factors that determine water's quality, I hope you'll never look at water the same way again. Although all water appears to be simple, clear liquid, you can see that there are subtle but really important distinctions at play. In the next video, we're going to discuss the most subtle aspect, but possibly the most important, which is the energetic quality of your water. So I will see you in the next section. Meanwhile, stay hydrated.